In this tutorial, let's focus on how we can position implants here in Planmeca Romexis 3D module. So naturally, first we could have a defined here panoramic view and also adjusted these cross-sectional views so that we have a good view on the implant side or sides. There are separate tutorials that instruct how we can make this panoramic view and adjust the cross-sectionals. Also, we have a separate tutorial for adding and managing implants. So here in this tutorial, let's just directly add here a default implant in the plan, and let's continue with the positioning of it. Firstly, when we are adding an implant to the maxilla, we could simply flip it by right-clicking on top of that and selecting flip, so we get it initially in the right direction to start with. Furthermore, we can reposition the implant on any of these slice views by simply grabbing it with our left mouse button down and moving it around. And also for aligning the implant, we can grab on these control points on the implant and change the angulation. If there would be the need to rotate the implant around the vertical axis of the implant, we could open the implant properties, for example through the object browser here, and we would find this rotation angle. So we could use this slider in order to make the implant rotate around this vertical axis. So if it would be, for example, a non-symmetrical implant. We could also reposition the implant using this 3D rendered view. So if we select the implant here in the object browser, or if it was active already, we could keep our Control and Shift buttons down on the keyboard, and we could grab the implant with our left mouse button and move it around. Also, by keeping these Control and Shift down on the keyboard and using our right mouse button, we could rotate the implant. So it would be possible to reposition the implant also here in the 3D rendered view. But the view that we really recommend for adjusting the positioning of the implant is this implant-centric view. So when we have the implant that we want to reposition activated, so it has these control points here, and it's bolded here in the object browser, we can click here on this implant-like icon, implant-centric view. So this generates us these views that are centered on the implant. So here in the axial view, we can see these two views that we have below. So this light blue view is parallel to the panoramic curve. So the light blue view we have here, and then perpendicular to that we have the red view here. And these views always stay centered on the implant. So also now, if we are grabbing the implant and we are repositioning it, these views will always stay centered on the implant. We could also rotate these views around by grabbing this slider above them. So this would allow us to see the bone all around the implant. Here on these slice views, we can also see the relative bone density displayed by this Hounsfield unit value at that site where our mouse currently is. But if we would like to still get more information about the relative bone density around the implant, we could also activate this implant verification tool for the currently active implant. So if we open this one, we can see here how the bone around the implant looks like. So firstly here we have the axial view that we can browse through. So we can also see in the other views how the axial view moves along the length of the implant. And here we can also rotate these views by dragging with our right mouse button down. So here we have this green view here, and perpendicular to that we have the red view. And also we have this light blue view here that shows like an envelope view around the implant. These two charts here instead show the Hounsfield unit values at the implant site. So firstly, we have this orange area, the inside of the implant, And this orange line here shows the relative bone density values, Hounsfield unit values along the length of the implant. Likewise, this purple area here is what is immediately surrounding the implant, and here we can see the Hounsfield unit values of this purple area. Here we have the Hounsfield unit values displayed in this axial view. So what values there are around the implant. Here we can see also the numerical values. So the mean Hounsfield unit value inside the implant, so this area here, and then outside of it, and then also the standard deviations for the values. With these sliders, we can define what is the range actually that is taken into account in these charts. So both the outside and the inside values. If we would like the bone density to be displayed by pseudocolors, we could activate this box here, and also by clicking here, we could change the coloring if we would like to. So with these pseudocolors, we might be able to better understand the differences in bone densities around the implant. And finally, with these options here, we could change these colors here. So we could change the color of the implant, or this inside or outside area. So we would just select here the respective object, and we would use this color chart here. If we would have several implants in the plan, we could toggle between the implants by using these next and previous buttons here. So let's then close this tool, and let's still take a look at this 3D rendered view. So also this could help us in understanding especially how the implant is positioned from the aesthetics point of view. So we could, for example, here hide the data with this threshold slider. So we would only have here the dental model and the crown. And so we could examine here how the implant would be going through the planned restoration. The rod that we see here is, by the way, the implant extension, and we can modify its dimensions by opening this default setting here. So we could go here, this implant extension properties. So we could both change the length of the implant extension as well as the diameter. So this implant extension helps us in understanding how the implant is positioned, for example, in relation to the opposing teeth. Something else that we can see here are the safety distances. So if we minimize that 3D rendered view, we can see the safety distance around the implant as this shaded rectangle. So what we see here is the safety distance implant to implant, and like we see, we can specify it ourselves. So we can determine here how close two implants could be to each other. So if we would have several implants in the plan, we would get an automatic notification if the implant's safety areas are overlapping each other. We can also specify a separate value safety distance implant to nerve. So if we would have marked a mandibular nerve and we would have this implant in the mandible, we would also get an automatic notification if the safety area of the implant touches the nerve. Let's actually see this in action by copying this implant and faking that there would be the need for a second implant. So if we track them close enough to each other, we can see this automatic notification, and also these safety areas turn red, as well as the backgrounds of the colliding implants here in the object browser. So this patient doesn't need more implants, but with the 2 implants, I just wanted to show you one more positioning tool that we can use. So if we are making a case with several implants and there would be the need to align those implants in a parallel way in all 3 dimensions, we could select as master implant that implant that we would like to use as reference for the alignment. And then here in the object browser, we would select all those implants that we would align with this master implant. So in this case, this second implant here. And now we could click on this Align Implants icon here in the object browser. So this would align those implants in all 3 dimensions. If we are satisfied with our implant positioning in the plan and we wouldn't like to accidentally move the implant, we could lock the implant here in the object browser. So we could select the implant that we want to lock in place and then use this lock icon here. So now there wouldn't be the risk that we would accidentally reposition the implant.